Hi everyone, this is Jason here from Nathaniel. In this lesson, we are basically going to look at the simplest chords we know, which are the major chord and the minor chord, and look at how we can play them in sophisticated ways, in ways which you would associate with professional piano players like Elton John, Nora Jones, or even where a piano could try and emulate some great guitar players like John Mayer or B.B. King or Eric Clapton. So there are a lot of things we do on this instrument, being a very binary instrument. Why I say binary instrument is because unlike other instruments, the only option we have when you approach a chord or when you approach a note is to play it, and play it maybe softer, little louder. That's pretty much it. While a guitar player or a violin player or even a vocalist has the opportunity to, mangle the note or change the note, glide it, hammer-ons, pull-offs, as some of you may know if you all are guitar players, or you can slide through an instrument. If you slide through a fretless instrument, it gives you even more possibilities. Piano has none of that. If you just look at the piano, if you say synthesizer, then yes, or if you say the modern day like Rolly keyboards, then you have all the possibilities as we know it, right? So in this lesson, we are just going to look at, if you were to play a chord like C major, you can play it, well, what are the different ways you can first play the chord, right? What we are taught is C major, C E G, E G C, that's the other C major, and G C E, right? Now a guitar player will look at that and think, man, the piano must be so simple because there are so many shapes on the guitar. One might argue maybe at least 25 to 30 ways of playing the major chord on the guitar just with the triad, without any kind of color. So it's time, if you're a piano player and you've just started playing major minor chords, you're okay with them, it's time to maybe move to the next level. Or if you're a intermediate or an advanced player, I guess it is time to maybe look at how the pros play. So a lot of these approaches are also how I approach the chords sometimes in my playing, and it gives me very good results to a point that I could literally start with a chord progression, not think of a melody, and somehow with these variations or these styles of approaching the chord hits, I'm able to just either get inspired to compose a melody or the melody is in the chord in any case, right? So these are just 5 quick approaches which I'm going to show you. I'm not going to show you with a specific chord and so on and so forth. There may not be a lot of notes in this lesson as we normally have, but it's just the way my fingers are moving across the chord. So let's get cracking. And if you haven't already, do hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon for notifications. It'll help our channel grow and it'll also help you get updates whenever a new lesson comes your way. Okay, so let's just approach a C minor chord. Okay, the first style of playing it is just out of what a guitar player would do with a chord, Just by the nature of the guitar, you cannot possibly play a chord like that with all the strings being played exactly together, unless you have like a lot of fingers to play all the 6 strings, or you've developed a robot which can do it. So on the keyboard, your options are limited, right? So what you could do to emulate the guitar is just imagine how the guitar player will go down the 6 strings. Instead of sounding like thung, it's going to sound more like thrung. So he's playing through all the strings. So what was once this could end up being that. So you need to make sure that your landing point, which is the last part of the chord or last note of the chord, in this case the G at the top end, is exactly on your beat of the bar or downbeat. So you can't start the downbeat with the flam notes. It'll have to be there. It has to land there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? 1, 1, 1. So at that exact point of that beat, I'm trying to latch on. Now you don't want to attempt this technique if it doesn't sound good. All of these techniques, you need to like work towards it such that it actually sounds good, which is why one of the best ways of learning music is to also listen to music, so you have a goal to look forward to. It's like you're learning a sport like tennis, and all of us will idolize Roger Federer, so it's something like that. You need to have an artist. So just watching a YouTube lesson or reading sheet music doesn't give you these embellishments on the piano. So the flamenco, I call it the flamenco technique because it's very similar to like what a guitar player would do, right? So you go like that. So there are two ways of building it up. You start first of all with your only the right hand. So if I take two chords, C minor and F major. F major. Right? This I think is very guitar-like. The advantage of the keyboard is you can bring in some melody while you hit the chord. Now, what is my left hand doing? The left hand could also kind of add to the flam. Now, some keyboard players would do everything like da 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 da. I think that's a bit too much. You could probably just stick with the root and the fifth with your bass. Just that. And that sort of, to me, sounds like a flamenco guitar. It sort of also reminds me of a harp player, So they just have their fingers on the chord. It's a two-handed instrument, and you just sort of flow with that technique, right? So, well, you may also think of these as really fast arpeggios, but I wouldn't look at it that way. I would just call this as, emulating other instruments. So listen to, great flamenco guitar players, listen to classical guitar players, listen to harpists, and listen to pianists who also adopt this technique. So that's the flamenco technique number one. Let's move on to the next one. So that was all about the flamenco approach which we have for chord playing, and let's move on now to the next one. The next one is what I call as the hammer-on approach or the country approach. Very common in country music or Americana music or folk music, where you're kind of, it's again very guitar inspired. A lot of you have asked me, please teach us how to follow a guitar. So this lesson is definitely for you, and the piano is that kind of an instrument. It's always an instrument where you learn from other players. You learn from singers, you learn from saxophonists, you learn from harmonica players, bass players, So it's one of the rare instruments which doesn't have its own identity or approach in that sense. Like, it's a very binary instrument, as I mentioned earlier. So it's important to learn from other instrumentalists, and again, like I said earlier, listen to more music. So if you have, okay, let's go to major. So now if I have D major, so this is how you can approach a hammer-on technique to play the D major chord. Instead of going like vanilla D major, you go that way. So I'm only sliding one note, that's E to F sharp. So A. Okay. So if you do Amazing Grace, if you do like any song, how sweet the sound, you can actually play this technique for all the chords, Okay, now you can also adopt this, as I'm calling, the hammer-on approach for inversions of chords. So if you're playing, let's just take D major like this, you'll do the hammer like like that. Or so your goal is, by the time you finish, well, what some musicians will call as a grace note, by the time you finish the grace, you've landed on a D major chord just like any other musician, right? Now this is something which is very, very piano friendly. It's not something which you will expect to do on other instruments. On a guitar, probably that's the general goal on a guitar. You hammer on and then you latch on to just 2 notes eventually. But on a piano, well, you can latch on to 4 notes, so you can literally use all your 5 fingers on the keyboard and still incorporate that grace note or the hammer-on technique. So there we go. So practice this well. D major with the hammer and then inversion. It's the same notes. It's E sliding to F sharp. You want to get to the third of the chord. And then the last one will be inversion, A, D, F sharp. And so to practice this better, maybe you could slow it down. And then, right? You can even use it in a melodic context. Right? You have to decide your melody. So in the melodic context, your melody needs to be on top of the chord, or an inversion of the chord which highlights the melodic note. So, right? So if you take, let's say, Happy Birthday. There we go. You see, that's everywhere. Of course, all of these are just, embellishments to chords. It doesn't mean that you have to use all of them. One approach is just minimize it, learn it for a good number of chords, and then, when you practice, go for the overkill approach where you try it with everything. And then when you actually go for a recording or a performance, you can then say, okay, I can do this quite well, so I'll just use it wherever I'm needed to use it, maybe just to embellish certain parts. You have the flamenco, you have this country hammer-on approach. Maybe you could just try out a lick like this, So what did I do? D major, pa-da-da, A major, da-da, G major, pa-da, D major. That's D, A, G major, D major. Simple major chords. So to dress it up with these sort of embellishments, right? So let's break that down. It's just chords, but it doesn't sound like someone just going and just playing the chord hits, right? It feels as though you're a melodic and a harmonic instrument and a rhythmic instrument all at once, right? So this is another great way to embellish chords, which I found very useful for playing genres like country, bluegrass, Celtic music, and sometimes even rock music, like so you listen to guitar players again. John Mayer's a great example. Mark Knopfler is probably the best example. So you should listen to other musicians, not just piano players. Okay guys, so moving on to the next technique. This is what I call as the double grace note approach. Okay, so it works great for some chords. It doesn't work for all of them. So I'm just specifically showing you a chord which I end up doing it a lot of times for, and sometimes I think I overdo it, but it's nice for certain chords, I feel. And that's another amazing thing about the piano. Every chord it feels different on your fingers. Every inversion also feels different. So it's kind of different from a guitar, because a guitar is very shape driven. Once you learn a specific shape, you apply that shape to a multitude of chords. While on the piano, an E flat major shape, even if you learn all the three, is going to feel very, very different than some other, major chord. Even though they sound the same, function the same, they do not feel the same on the instrument. So if you take E flat major in, what is this inversion? The first inversion. G, B flat, E flat, and this is the technique. Okay? Now you could approach this as, right? You could also end it without the B flat. You can just do like, really emphasizes that hit, the strong hit. Then get back to the chord. Why not do it with maybe a simpler chord like C major? Right? I guess this is used a lot in gospel music. There we go. Also country. What I like to do sometimes is, okay, instead of, I could do, okay, and of course you can combine like this double grace note approach with the hammer approach, with the flamenco approach, which we've learned so far. So that's your third way to embellish a simple major or a minor chord. Start with triads, and then you can even move to the other more complicated chords, right? So let's move on to the next way to embellish our triads. Right, so the next approach is what you could look at in a lot of the popular music out there, especially music which may not even have the piano. It could have been composed with some kind of a synthesizer, like various songs are these days. It may not even have the piano, but I'm just giving you a pop approach, at least the last 10 decades of music. What people have been doing to dress up major and minor chords on the piano keyboard. So the first thing you find is, in a lot of these EDM songs, they spread out the chord. So instead of doing E flat major like this, they would go, so instead of E flat, G, B flat, it'll be E flat, B flat, G. Right, which actually reminds us of the old days of Bach, maybe, stuff like the cello suite and all of that stuff. So it's weird that it's actually there in like EDM dance music, So they'll go something like, you'll find this in a lot of songs, right? I hope this video doesn't get taken down if this is some existing song. Hopefully not. But anyway, so you take like your E flat major chord and you play it. Instead of that G in the middle, play there. So stuff like this. Nice thing about spread voicings on the keyboard is you can even play them down below. Just hold it there, you know. People sing stuff, you know. There we go. So that's, well, it's still a triad, isn't it? It's still F major, F, A, C, but the notes are wider apart. So this really helps to, well, just change the way you play your chord. So just because I said it's a pop pattern doesn't mean you can't use it for your own music here and there, right? So a couple more pop things which people do, like you'll find musicians or keyboard players just playing a fifth chord in the right hand, or a power chord as guitarists like to call it. And in the left hand, they just play notes in the scale. And that's the song. That's it right there. Another very popular approach. So just take, I guess it's inspired from the guitar, because guitar players like a lot of their chords with like an open G or an open E at the top end. So maybe it sort of got influenced by there. Right? Or maybe in a more rock context. Right, so you could use it for rock stuff. So what is that technique? Fifth chord in the right hand, play anything in the key or scale which you're trying to do in the left hand. So that's another very common pop thing. And another pop thing which I find, well, this is not modern pop, this has been pop through the ages, is people will take like an A major chord, right, and play and add a couple of notes. So instead of all the gliding stuff we learnt earlier, you just take A major and choose a note which you'd like to combine it with to just make it a bit more richer. We call this as cluster chord. So you go. It also allows that A major to last longer. You can go like, and someone can just sing an alap or just improvise freely. Right? And if you layer this with a pad or something, yeah, it sounds even better. You can do the same maybe for B minor. So B minor with a C sharp being the second. You can also do stuff like E major with the A as the added 4. Some of you may think, oh, isn't this a suspended chord? Not really. If it was a suspended chord, you won't have a third. This has a third and a fourth. So these are your pop patterns which you would find. Let's just recap those pop patterns. You have spread voicing, you have fifth chord, chord voicing techniques, and lastly you have these cluster chords. Right, so let's move on. I have one more approach to make chords a lot more, sophisticated and exciting. Right, so this approach is basically what I call as Plagal chords. Okay, Plagal chords are derived from the Plagal cadence, of which we have enough and more YouTube videos explaining the concept, including how the Plagal cadence and the circle of fifths work together. So that's a theory background lesson. So do check out all our stuff on Plagal cadences. Anyway, so what you do here, I'm using Plagal cadences or Plagal chords rather, just as passing chords. So if I take the A major chord, you tell yourself what is its fourth. So a great way is circle of fifths, one neighbor down, and you will get yourself the D chord. Okay, so don't play D as D major, full D major. Do D major with an A bass, because in the chord chart which you are practicing, the chord says A major, but then you're like, I want to make it more colorful. So what do? I want to do something, because A major is lasting for a while, you know. Yes, we have the other approaches which I've already taught you. Something really cool would be, while you're playing A, like your guitar player is just playing A, or the bass player is just playing A. But what you are doing is you're giving the song color. You're also inspiring the vocalist if you're trying to compose. So what did I do there? I'm essentially playing a D major chord with an A bass. Also what people would call as a D/A. Okay? And as I mentioned it, on the topics of slash chords, we have quite a few lessons as well. So do check out our lessons on slash chords, Plagal cadences. Basically, subscribe and hit the bell. You will get information of all these videos as they keep coming your way quite regularly. Okay, so you go A. Okay, so if you take any kind of a song, let's say going to E. Ask yourself, what is E's fourth? E's fourth is A major. Maybe D. That's a very Elton John thing to do. See, what Elton John has done there is he's left the key of A major. He's looked at then he comes back to the root. So Plagal cadences are amazing, but in this context, just with an A in the bottom, you're just droning or pedaling it with that A in the bass. So in theory, your guitar player or especially your bass player is not going to think, oh, this guy changed his chord. He's still on A major. He's just doing some color. And if you do A major going to some other D, what is the other D? D minor. This becomes something which I personally find very interesting. So if you find your vocalist singing the F instead of the normal F sharp, especially with a lot of Indian music, lot of Hindustani and Carnatic raga based songs, you know, people like that F instead of F sharp, even in Celtic music. So you go na 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 na. It's almost like a new chord now, right? Okay. Anyway, so that's basically about the Plagal cadence. So let's summarize. We've looked at 5 ways to make simple major and minor chords a lot more sophisticated. The first thing we looked at was our flamenco approach. Okay. Then we looked at the country piano or the hammer-on approach. Then we looked at the gospel, the double grace thing. Don't overdo it. Then what else did we look at? We looked at the pop approach, where we took the spread chord options. Very pop and very electronic music-ish, right? Then we looked at the cluster chords. You just add the 2 or the 4. And then you looked at the 5th chord approaches. So just wander off in your left hand. Very good for rock as well, rock music as well. And lastly, we looked at that Plagal passing chord technique, where in the chord chart you don't really write, oh, the chord has changed to something. Rather, you play your chord. If it's long enough, you just add it, wherever you need. Minor if you like. Plagal just means go up a fourth and come back to the bottom. Right, guys, so this is what we have for this lesson. 5 ways to make chords a lot more sophisticated. Do try it out in your music. Do see if it can work for existing songs. Do see if it can work for some compositions which you may be working on. And all the best with this approach. And again, this is Jason from Nathaniel School of Music. Don't forget to hit the like, the bell, subscribe. And you can also consider following us on Patreon, where a lot of new things are going on there. So head over to Patreon as well if you can. And if you're a complete beginner, or if you're just starting off and you're finding some of our lessons a bit more advanced, maybe you'd want to go through our Foundation Piano course, which is pretty much going to start from the absolute basics. Where are the notes, and how do you get your two hands actually working together with finger exercises and some chord work, theory, ear training, and so on. So there are links to all of this stuff. So I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers. Thanks for watching.